A very good morning. I'm glad you're still with us here on MorningAtNTV. It's time for the Kickstarter discussion, and we'll be tracking count on ongoing efforts by the government to understand the dynamics of demographics in the country, but most importantly, knowing who is where, so that this can inform the delivery of critical services. It's been noted that the population is important as a factor in national development, and knowing how many people are within certain borders is generally regarded as a major concern across the world. Uganda is currently conducting the National Population and Housing Census that is due to go for 10 days. We are into day 4 today. And of course, my guests who will be joining us will be helping us understand what is going on, why some of what's going on is going on the way it is, but most importantly, what the nation stands to benefit in this latest exercise that is conducted every 10 years as part of initiatives to ensure comprehensive planning. I'm joined on my extreme left by Francis Babu, senior citizen. Many thanks for making time.
Good morning to you and to all our viewers and our guests here.
On his immediate right is Emmanuel Kisembo, a youth leader at Bunyoro Kitara Youth Development Initiative. Many thanks for making it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
And on my immediate left, Kamugisha Kassim Sheikh, RCC Nakawa. Thank you for making it. Deputy RCC.
Pleasure is mine. Good morning, Chris.
I don't want to put your pay grade in jeopardy by your boss asking, did you tell those guys you're the RCC?
No, you have made it very clear.
Oh, okay.
Deputy RCC Nakawa, good morning, Chris and viewers.
Yeah, you're most welcome, gentlemen. If you don't mind, let me begin, Captain. What's your view of what's going on? People are being counted. Chris Higgins hasn't been counted. He will be counted. We have a whole 10 days for this particular exercise. 4 are down. I hope I can be counted on the 9th.
The people who organized the census knew exactly the problems they might face.
That's right.
And they gave it 10 days. But the most important is then the day of the 9th, which is supposed to be the reference point.
Okay.
So as far as they're concerned, they will continue doing this. Of course, on the 10th, they had given us a public holiday. It would have been nicer to have as many people as possible. But they got these new machines, which are using data and all that. In fact, I was a little bit worried that in certain areas in Uganda, they might have even a bigger problem where they don't have coverage of the data. But they told me they're going to have that coverage. And I did talk. The gentleman who came to my house, he came around 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 10th.
On the 10th, yeah. The start day.
The start day. And he explained that they had been called that morning, in fact, to his office, around his office, I think. And they were given all this, they were given the briefing. And then these equipments, and some of them were freezing, actually, the digital group stuff they had. But they came, and we went through it, and it was good. They only interview one person in every household, the one who can give all the information about the house. The young men were very good. The young man and the lady were very, very good. The LCs were actually accompanying them from house to house.
Okay.
And they did a good job. Now, a lot of our people did not get it because that day they started a little bit late because you don't want to go too deep into the logistics of it, but I'm quite sure the arrangement. In fact, I was telling my friend they should have started the day before. To give these people the... But they were to go and do the homeless that evening, the young man explained. And I don't know how far they went in Kampala. You know, you have a lot of homeless people. And I pray to God
that the floating population.
Yeah. I hope they will be able to get to everybody. It's a very good exercise as far as I'm concerned. It's supposed to give us the basis of our development.
That's right.
The numbers are very important, and they give you the population. They give you the location, and they give you the social. So you have social, economic, figures. Which and the most important there, the economy is based virtually on the population.
Yeah.
and the houses we have, because they do housing census also. Remember, there's other census which are not included here. They have censuses of farms, they have censuses of animals, all sorts of things.
Those are conducted differently.
Yes.
The reason the population goes in line with the housing census is because, after all, the people live in houses.
That's right. And those who don't live in houses, they also find. And the important thing I was told that they were also enumerating foreigners who are here, that night who were here.
That's right.
Even wherever they are, they would be counted.
Okay.
So that's extremely important.
All right. Mr. Kisembo, what's your take so far of the National Population and Housing Census?
Well, Mr. Egenyi, being the first time that Uganda as a government is conducting this kind of exercise, there are many...
It's not the first time.
I mean digital.
Digital?
Yes, digital. It is its first time. We expect so many challenges, but still, that should not be used as an excuse. It shouldn't be used as an excuse. And Ugandans, we're expecting whatever will be gotten will help this country to move forward in terms of planning, that is future planning. But before we get into that, we need to see an overview that is about the whole census. When we are talking about census, the viewers, the Ugandans, what exactly is all about census. One thing you have to know, it is a very real investigation that UBOS has to do, and the other stakeholders like INIRA, URA, and the whole government at large. So many Ugandans, you find they resist this kind of registration. You can see COVID registration has really been a problem. You look at yellow fever. You look at even recently IFRIS. Ugandans are still resistant. And of course, government becomes overwhelmed with these kind of registrations, and I find sometimes a president's voice should really be added on, and one of these days the president's voice, I think people are getting fed up of the president's voice. You have seen what happened in Kololo, people coming out with the different statements before the president, Kavaka Wangale, something like that. I think the president's voice, maybe people are getting fed up of it, I don't know, but that is what is happening. So the technical people should really do more about this, and of course UBOS has tried, because it is the first time. Then also this census helps communities to plan for future, and of course leaders review this information later, used, that is to plot on how to plan. On how and where. So census is very costly method. That is for a country like Uganda, because it is very developing investigation of information, which is consuming a lot of time. Particularly in this, it needs over 180 questions. That is per household. But I think, like Captain says, the fact that only one member of the household is the one answering the questions. 180 questions. For 180 questions. It is over like 2 hours, even if you go to these people who sit for exams. 180 questions are too many. By the time you finish, the person you're interacting with, you may not be at par. So there is need that is to reduce. You look at the basics, the relevant ones, which are very primary, such that you can cut. Those are concerns the RCC might want to address a little later, but let's first get the overview from your point of view as a focal person, first for the president, but also the government.
Thank you, Chris, and my colleagues this morning. I want to say that we didn't expect what the outcome was on the first day, especially the floating population. Our greatest worry was, as a government, shall we really hit our target that night? And I want to thank all Ugandans who were in motion that night, that the reception they gave and the statistics we picked from that night they really depict what Ugandans really are in terms of working closely with government programs. And so, actually I can say that what we are picking from UBOS is telling us that so far, 80% of the floating population was captured in urban centers in the whole country, and we no longer have a worry about that. Then, of course, the subsequent day, yes, there were a few hiccups, being the first time to have a digital population census. We didn't have experience in how to really get the best result, but at least in the middle of the day, we kicked off very, very, very well, and our boys did a very good work, and I'm happy my senior is reporting a positive case where his family and others were captured. So the program is moving on very well. We were very much worried about the reaction that night in terms of security of our enumerators. And I can tell you, Chris, and the viewers, that whereas we could have had 1 or 2 scattered incidents, for example, in Mukono we had one, we had another one in eastern Uganda, but by and large, emulators had a good time with the people they interacted with, and security was also moving very closely, but undercover. Because our thinking was, if a policeman or a backup force of UPDF appeared, people would run away.
People would scatter.
There
is uneasiness when it comes to the military being
exactly.
involved.
So security was really covert, and that helped our emulators to have confidence in interacting with the population. But even then, Ugandans want to be counted because they feel the government should know how many they are in terms of demography, in terms of the social strength, economic strength, so the country can plan very well. Since 2014, up to date, this is where we began working on speculations. How many are we? 45.5, 46, 50. So the government has been planning based on speculation. And that cannot be really very, very good if you want to have the best planning for your country. That's why countries like UK have got youth census groups which keep updating the data of the government in terms of the demography, in terms of social strength. The government keeps planning specifically for the populations they have. So what I can really emphasize is, whereas we could have had a few hiccups in the beginning, the exercise is moving on very smoothly, and for those who might have not been really counted as of today, today is day 4. We have got other extra 6 days to go.
So the possibility of an extension?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go into possibilities. I want to stick on what was planned for. That is 10 days. So 6 days are still there to have everybody covered. But if the government feels that after 10 days, there are some missing gaps in terms of the populations uncounted, the government has got, by law, it has got a leeway to extend so that we can capture everybody. So Uganda is really asked to stay put, and everybody will be counted.
Deputy RSCC, I'll be returning to you to give us a little bit more flesh on the aspect of ability of the state agencies to update data periodically, so that you do not have to require one general process in order to know exactly where we are in terms of numbers. For example, if NIRA can conduct its own registration process, if Ministry of Health can conduct another registration process, it should be able to provide those numbers, and then the different agencies correlate them, and then we do not end up overly speculating. That one, you will give it a little bit of flesh. And Mr. Kisembo, the youth have been heavily involved in this, especially in terms of being enumerators, but most importantly as agents of change. It is important that they embrace this particular exercise, but the hostility out there is something that we must be able to talk about and see how best it changes. But before the two of you answer those questions, I want to get the senior citizens' view. Census has been conducted over many years, and the demographics continue to change. When you look at the structure of Uganda's population right now, and in light of the challenges that government faces in delivering services effectively, how effective will this particular census offer government in terms of information on where and on what to do?
Yeah, it's extremely important. The census in this country started in 1911 by the colonial government. and they went on 1948 up to 19. In 1980, had a little bit of problem because of the war.
That's right.
And I'm of the view that we should understand the reason why they do it every 10 years. Because in 10 years, the population increases. At the same time, people grow a little bit older.
That's right.
So in 10 years, there's a change. They want to see the status. This, you know, a change that is registered. Now, a few last 10 years ago, we had a population, and physically, you know what numbers you had. Now, the government and the Ministry of Finance has got figures that they add on, saying that, well, the population of Uganda grows about 3.5% every year. Therefore, every year we know what the population is going to be like, using that increase in number. But it's very interesting that the increase reduced as we approached the census. Okay. It did actually decrease. So instead of having 3.5, it went to some 2.75. Now, the reason why we must do it all equally without using the organs you were talking about,
the various agencies,
it does not give the true picture of the whole country. You must have the whole country. Now, let me tell you the reason why we must have the whole country. A lot of things stands on this. For example, you're going to go into the elections. You've got to know what each district, constituencies, and so on, how many people are there and which position they're in. You want to know the youth. You know, there's this propaganda about the youth. Youth. No, the youth are in stages. There are those young ones who are between 13 and 18. There are those who are between 18 and 30. And now those who are between 30 and 60 call themselves youths also. So we've got to get to know what a youth is.
Senior youth.
So these are all things that seems to be the new propaganda.
But we have a standard threshold for youth.
There is a law which says a youth is between 18 and 30, not even 35 anymore.
Even 35,
it used to be 35. Now, it's also important that we cannot only do it using those organs because of their interest. They've got to go using the population census as a basis of their registration.
That's right.
So you've got to have the population census first. That gives you the foundation of all those you're talking about. They will base on that one. And when they go out there to register, they have an approximate number already. So it's important that we have this national one, which is recognized not only by our government, but by even international organizations that work with us. They don't recognize individual things. Those individuals are really internal. They are not external. For example, if the passport people want to know how many people can apply for passports, they use this census to get the average age, and then they can do a bit of registration. Now, from there, I wanted to say this. The president did launch this population census in December the 12th of last year. And then from there, they started working. Now, you can see from the time he launched it up to now, there's been a lot of work which went under the water. We need to respect that.
That's right.
We need to respect how many people are. Now, I sometimes become a little bit disappointed when people bring their biases about the president, about that one. If you don't like the voice of the president, there are those who like it. If we had brought those who like his voice, they would also be here. No, we are not here to compare whose voice, whether it is a baritone or it is what. No, that is up to the president. But the whole point is when people are planted in a thing like what was in Kololo, and then they make those kind of statement, go on media publicly to do it because they've been sent to do it, we know what is going on. We are Ugandans. So this underground social media usage and abuse of leaders in this country is getting a little bit out of hand. There are people who are not bored to have a country called Uganda. And our leaders, regardless of which side they come from, which party they come from, those are our leaders. That's the political class. I will also stand here and say that other political leader, I don't like his voice. When you do that, it works both ways. It doesn't matter who you are. So I want us to respect each other and to respect people in their offices. Whether it's an opposition leader, whether it is whatever it is, all of them are important to us. They are all Ugandans and they are all leaders in one way or the other. So as we go to that one, let us, after removing the bias, the president is still the head of the government of Uganda, whether I like him or I don't.
And he has spoken out.
He has already spoken out on December the 12th and launched this exercise, which is taking place. And to say that his voice is not liked, I'm sorry, then you've got to buy earplugs, because he's going to be the president until 2026.
Maybe, Mr.
So
Kisembo,
I want us to say this. No, I want us to say this. Because, no, I am not, by the way, I'm not advocating for the president.
No.
I've got my differences with the government. But those differences, I bring them and say, I don't agree with you. Okay. But I don't go on personalities.
All right. Now, let's excuse that for now.
Please.
Yeah.
I don't agree to sit in a place where people are being called names. Whether it is opposition, whether it is who, all the leaders, it doesn't matter which party. They are all important to us. It's a political class.
Okay.
Now, after we finish doing that one, I want to say about the census. A census is not only going to help us here, it's also going to help us with the World Bank, with the IMF, with the European Union, with the people who want to work with us. They also look at the economic, the trade. The population of Uganda will decide the market of this country. These are extremely important. And therefore, when we are doing it, we pray that it is done very well so that we can have very good figures. But like our statisticians will tell you, there are some what they call freak values at the end of it. It will never be 100% perfect.
100% perfect.
So we will pray that it goes on, and I'm happy. All the people who are enumerators are all youth. My type were not allowed to apply,
No, it's a rigorous process. Moving up the villages and stuff like that is not for senior citizens. Though we understand the imperative.
I cannot even use the tablet. The tablet.
But you can use a smartphone.
Oh, well, I thought it might be different. I might need an exercise.
All right. Don't please go into defending yourself overly. I think the point is made when it comes to characterization or even talking about your dislike of somebody or not. I want us to focus on the youth imperative in this particular census. He has just told you that many the enumerators are youth, which is very good. That means either those that might have been unemployed have a chance to earn some money for the next 10 days. The concerns about payment and delays are also things that have marred the census itself. When it comes to planning, do you see a fundamental opportunity for the government to shift its attention on how it plans for the youth by the data that is going to be retrieved in this particular census?
Yeah, automatically, if you look at whatever is going on, for government to plan very well, you need some accuracy. You need to know the number of youth and on how to plan for them or for their future. But the most important thing about this census, that they are not only counting. They are not only counting people, but they are also looking at the geographical kind of activities, even if they don't ask those kind of questions. The GPS that they are using, it can even tell them which kind of activities here, the roads, the rivers, those kind of physical features. But according to the youth, there are a number of challenges that the youth are facing in this kind of census. One is the pay. 50,000, most especially for people who are in urban areas, in terms of movements and even feeding. Even that 50,000 is going to be gotten at the end of the what? At the end of the exercise. Then there are so many issues which have come in, like I can say order from above, like people who were recruited in this, others were not really, they did not follow the right procedure. Others came in because of politics, like LOC 5 chairperson has said this is my person. So they did not follow really the right procedure. Other people just...
On what basis does that statement come from? Is it speculation because you suspect that the recruitment could have been done like much of the recruitment is done elsewhere in other aspects?
No, it is not speculation, but that is what is on the ground. That is what is on the ground.
Where?
In our area. In
Bunyoro.
Uganda, yeah. That is what is on the ground. Yes, I want to tell you this, some of these districts. That is what is on the ground, that the people who were recruited, even other parts of Uganda, they did not recruit them based on merits. Others because of the voice. Some of the district chairpersons, some of the RDCs and RCCs, they bring in their people, not on merit. So that one also has affected the what? The exercise.
Interesting.
Two, government did not take time to plan for this. For this exercise, the system is not effective. Like Airtel and MTN, I don't know whether they had a memorandum of understanding. Network has set us. It is really very slow. Other areas, they don't have network. Just even me in Kagadi town, where I stay, you find that the network around there in the town is very, very poor. Then the enumerators, they are not able to proceed, and also the hardware, they did not have time. Most of the hardware, if a manufacturer of the hardware or the system has taken over a year to develop it, then these enumerators had it 2 days, others even had it 1 day. So the first day, as is telling us that 80% in urban places were covered, that is a very total lie.
Moving population.
So you will find that those are some of the challenges that people are getting, and I have told you the 180 questions. They are very, very many, but being that we are getting that primary data, maybe in the next population census, maybe those questions may be reduced, but 180 questions are very many. Then some information, if it can be deleted, because we would take on the essentials. Then the other is the enumerators. They were very slow learning this kind. The first day, second day, maybe towards the seventh, seventh, eighth day.
I think that's down to
they will
individual capabilities. I think as a general challenge, people's ability to grasp some of the issues or the usage of the equipment, I think that's down to the individuals. I don't know whether you can specifically pinpoint or put a finger to how it has affected, because we do believe, for example, especially that we are on national television, that we can be able to factualize these developments. So great. But I understand exactly what you're talking about in terms of the challenges of recruitment and pay. There are CCs here. I don't know how it's being done in Nakawa. The enumerators expected to be paid, and it's not a fault to expect to be paid, by the way. There is a tendency in Africa to assume that if somebody expects to be paid for a job, then their attitude is bad. I don't think that is the way it's supposed to be. 334 billion Uganda shillings was earmarked for this particular census. The Executive Director, Mr. Mukiza, says 98% of funds were provided. I do not think by any chance the inability to pay on time is as a result of the 2% that hasn't been delivered, is it?
Chris, I want to very quickly make a highlight. One, Uganda is a democracy. And the reason is why our seniors went to the bush was to ensure that we have democracy. And democracy means that I don't agree with every opinion you put across.
That's right.
So sometimes when the president puts out his voice and someone says he disagrees, then for me I'm saying democracy is at total play in our country. And me, I don't think it should be a point of discussion, because we're a democratic state in Uganda. Number two, a district in Uganda where a chairman LC5 or an MP influences a decision cannot be really the weighing scale of a process in Uganda. So if Kagadi as a district had issues of political interference, then that cannot be really a measure of how the recruitment was done in the country. The standard was people applied to UBOS digitally. UBOS picked out, sent back to the town clerks and cows, but also gave a smaller window of where those ones who went through the process could not turn up to be filled. And so that could be the reason why in Kagadi there was that interference. But here in Kampala, we never had interferences. There is no one who can say RCC Nakawa sent me, RCC Kampala sent me. So it can't be a measure. And for the issue of a pay, it is outright logic that you don't expect to be paid when you have not worked. What if your target is to get the 50,000 and you run away? The government is also that this is a taxpayer's money. Yeah. How do we ensure value for money? Get out, do the work. When work is complete, then we shall pay you. The Parliament of Uganda allocated money, that is 336 billion for this process. The Minister of Finance has released this money to UBOS, and therefore whoever saying that he will not be paid.
Maybe let's clarify on that. This money that is disbursed is not a wage. It's allowance stipend, one that is supposed to facilitate the work. For example, moving about.
You see, the question they're asking
a meal
is not a pay of a day. They're asking a complete pay of the whole exercise. And we're also saying, whereas we agree that we should pay.
What has UBOS offered? Is it offering pay per day?
You see, we had processes. The first process was to train supervisors.
That's right.
Parish supervisors. They were trained and they got their facilitation for that training, which was on a daily basis. The second process was training of enumerators, the ones who are in the field. Actually, this issue of a tab, it's not being used for the first time. They were with it for 9 days in the field, being trained. Okay. And some of them have received their pay. For those who have not received, is because people have got names that don't correspond with the phone numbers that should receive the money. Maybe information there. Okay. Maybe those could be the ones who have not received the pay. And our assurance as a government.
Your Chris Higenyi, the phone number you've given has Emmanuel Kisembo, your friend.
Yes.
Okay, and you're saying Muteke Kwezo.
Muteke Kwezo. But it's not you being reflected in the system. Okay. But what we are giving assurance on is that every enumerator, every supervisor, everybody who was recruited by UBOS in this exercise will receive his pay because Parliament allocated. Parliament shall still supervise the activity through their mechanisms, and we want to have value for money, but also satisfaction of our people doing work. Now, to the question you asked, Chris, about Minister of Health.
Just a moment. Would you mind information? And be very quick and to the point.
To tell my brother here. That,
the truth.
Yeah, the truth. I'm telling you the truth. That this 50,000 shillings, I don't have any problem with it. But the problem comes, you are not getting it daily. And our biggest population of the youth, they are very, very poor. Just me coming from here and earlier, it has costed me 15,000 to come here. Now, when you look at lunch, you look at breakfast, you look at supper, then break the 50,000. If it was coming instantly, at least, but it is even coming later, then what is talking about that they had these tablets for 9 days? That is a total lie. They had them 2 days, others 1 day. The theoretical part of it, it is the one that took 9 days. That's what I wanted to correct here.
All right.
Excuse me. He likes the word total lie. I'm going to use it also. That the enumerators are only doing LC1. They don't go outside the LC1. So each enumerator is an LC1. It does not go from Nadia to here.
Yeah, but
from Nadia, I'm trying to explain. Yeah, from Nadia to here, there are so many LCs.
In urban places, they are very populated.
No, I want Kisembo today to learn that words like lies are not polite. Are not polite. Are not polite. No, you were talking, I kept quiet.
Captain Kisembo.
Mr. Kisembo.
Let's allow Kamugisha.
No, I want Mr. Kisembo to learn how to say, I do not agree with that, but not to say it is a lie.
Listen to this.
The word lie. You must listen.
He has a point to make.
I'm giving information.
He has used the word you want.
Excuse me.
He does not agree.
I don't want him to lie to people that the enumerator is going from Nadia to here.
No, he didn't say the enumerator was going from Nadia. He said here as a youth leader.
Excuse me. My LC1 can be walked by foot without even using transport. My LC1.
Overpopulated.
Okay.
It would be okay in a rural place.
Gentlemen, that is well understood. Gentlemen, that is
Kisembo is one of the biggest liars alive.
Captain and Mr.
You want to use the word lie. You're a liar.
Okay, you wanted the word that I don't agree.
Mr. Kisembo.
So I don't agree.
Mr. Kisembo, I am the moderator and I'm asking
Kisembo is a liar.
Respect the rules on
set.
set.
I'm going to use the word liar to him, and if he feels good
you will
with
have
it,
an opportunity,
then he will use it.
You will discuss that. Mr.
You are a liar.
You
are a liar.
Continue with your point. Mr. Kamugisha is speaking.
The point I was making is...
Mr. Kamugisha, before you do, let me take a break and ensure that the tempers are cooled so that we can have a smooth transition. You're watching Morning at NTV. Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us. It's the Kickstarter, and we're talking about the national population and housing census that is currently underway, having begun on Friday, the 10th of May. In studio, I have with me Captain Francis Babu, a senior citizen. I also have Emmanuel Kisembo, a youth leader in Bunyoro, as well as Sheikh Kassim Kamugisha, the deputy RCC at Nakawa, to help us understand what is going on, the misses, as well as the heat. But the conversation had gotten a little bit heated, and we had to do some amendments in light of what was going on. But I'm glad we are now back. Captain?
Yes, sir.
When Mr. Kamugisha is done with his submission of the question I'd asked earlier, I want to interest the audience in how particularly the planning process will roll out.
Yes.
Especially with regard to youth work. When you understand that this year you have this particular number of people as demographic in the country, how they are going to transition into the future population and workers is something you must plan right now. That is very important, and you as a senior citizen, you have this information. But Mr. Kamugisha, please submit on the question I asked earlier, quickly.
Chris and the viewers, if Uganda had moved 50 years ago digitally to the level where the Ministry of Health does its survey digitally, NIRA does everything digitally, immigration does everything digitally, then maybe we would be having a synchronized digital center that could be a reflection of what our country is in terms of the population. It's what we are talking about here. But here you find the Ministry of Health is doing its work, but is doing it manually. NIRA is doing its work digitally, immigration is doing its work manually, and so there is no synchronization of all this information.
That's right.
And therefore, it leaves a very big gap in terms of the population and what we capture beyond the numbers. Because what we are doing here as a government is not about counting Chris and the family. We are counting Chris, we are asking you level of education, we are asking you the age of your children. So we want to have a complete outcome of the population so that we can have planning based on demography, the social power, the economic power of the nation, so that the country and the government plans very well. Now, here when health is capturing, it doesn't go into knowing how far I have gone in education. When NIRA is capturing, it doesn't go to know how far in terms of my economic activity. So all those ones are gaps which have to be filled by the national population census. Yes. Don't forget that we have got sections in the population which says, I will not have a national identity card. I don't need it. They are there. You have got sections which say immunization is a taboo. So when Ministry of Health is doing immunization, they are like, that's a taboo for us. Now, when you base on the statistics of Ministry of Health or NIRA, you miss a very big gap within what you want to capture as a government. So you have to go back as a government and come out with what is acceptable by everybody that can bring out the clear picture of who are the people, where are they, how are they, and then you discover the gaps and you plan to fill those gaps. So that does not really give us a basis to say that because NERA is doing some work, Ministry of Health is doing some work, it is enough. No,
ideally we would expect that the exercises rather become simpler because they are complemented by work from another agency. Yeah, but you see, even in the countries where really there is synchronization of data, that even if you pass a traffic light, they will send information on your phone. They still a criminal has just passed.
They still go back and do national census so that they can determine how they have to plan for their country. But ideally, maybe in 100 times to come, we would not have to worry about how many we are. We will be having that capability to synchronize and come out with actual. But for now, we need a national census so that we can fill gaps which are left by these other agencies. And as I crown this one, I think for the last 100 and something years, Uganda for the first time is doing census in the exact time. Actually, it is a celebration that from 2014 to 2024. It's 10 years and we are counting our people.
We haven't extended a month.
Exactly. But in those other times, you could have disruptions. Maybe you have got a turbulence, you have got but because of the stability and because of the government's really efforts to ensure that it really embarks on real planning for its people, in 10 years' time, we are saying, how many are we? Let's leave speculation. Let's go for what is real, and we plan for our country. I want to applaud the government on that
I'm glad you used the word real planning, and this is something I should throw to Emmanuel Kisembo. The youth
he will call it a total lie.
thirst for real planning for them, because they have areas of concern. It could be agriculture, it could be access to jobs, it could be access to healthcare. If the data is available and given to an agency that you happen to have a chance to engage with, how should the planning process be for this country when it comes to the youth demographic?
Yeah, when you look at this 2024 census, basically it is what we call de facto. It is the de facto method of census, and we have about two methods of, we have DIJA, but what we are using is called de facto. And when you look at the census, we are looking at what we call the spatial data. That is which is taking place. So this comprises of geographical information about the earth and the future. And if this 2024 census is accurately captured, it is going to help us to find out the housings and a lot of information. And also you will find that it will help Uganda achieve that social economic transformation leading to Vision 240.
All right.
And then the 2024 census, if accurately, will develop market strategies and create that is more effectiveness in terms of production and distribution systems. So basically, that one will depend on what we are calling an accurate kind of results that we shall get. But again, the 2014, there are certain things that we need to learn because they captured about 53 of 1,000. That is now on the infant mortality rate. Children died around there. Then 80%, most of Ugandans were depending largely on subsistence. So we don't know whether, because we think, because Uganda has moved forward, I think we think it may drop. Others have gone to ICT, it may drop. Then the women were 51, that is 214, 51%, and the men, they were 49%.
Statistically, the men are fewer, but when you look at the numbers, it's pretty much the same. Thank you very much. Let me push this to Captain Francis Babu, and you will do the final wrap. I had referenced earlier on the UK's ability to do what is described as the National Youth Work Census. Is there any comprehensive survey that is benchmarked on that in Uganda?
No, it's ours overall. It's a Manpower Survey, and you know, for many years it was not done. But in 2016, 2017, they did one, a Manpower Survey, and came out. Now, a Manpower Survey is very important. In some countries, it's a political issue. Every month they want to know how many people have been employed.
Yeah.
And remember, the people who are being employed are not old. They are all below the age, in most countries, below the age of 60. So you go down and say, who are the majority in the people who are a labor market, as they call it.
That's right.
Now, they look at it in many different ways. And in this country, they're supposed to give us those figures every so often. Now, in countries like Britain, it is every month. Sometimes every 2 months. In Australia, it is even more interesting. They want it every other day. So it is extremely, extremely important. Now, look at Uganda. The population has increased. The universities have increased. The schools are even more. So you're producing people coming out of these beautiful universities, and they are pumping them into the population. The jobs are limited, and they want to expand them. Now, we've got to look at where the other jobs are. For example, the labor. People don't look at agriculture as a source of labor, but it is a very important area, which can be developed to provide labor for people. There are other areas you could look at. So government has a big problem, and the manpower survey is extremely important to a nation, especially to the youth.
That's right.
Because these are the people who must be employed in the system. So as I end this one, it is important that after this population census, they've got to do another manpower survey. From it, they have to do a labor survey, which is different, and to be done by UBOS also. Yeah. Here they call it a Manpower Survey of Uganda, MAP, MAPU. So it's extremely important that they do it. And it's extremely important that we look at our youths, and we must also look at what kind of employment we can get in the country. That is right. So while you're talking about the youth looking for jobs, where are they looking for these jobs? Because they all come to town. The government does not have enough. The private sector is still small. So we've got to, after this census, we've got to increase all those areas for the purposes of our youth. All right. Now I get it. There's also a labor externalization. Okay. In countries like Philippines, it is planned for. Labor externalization. So they get people trained and taken to other countries. Yes. All right. Thank you very much for emboldening our understanding of things that will happen out of the census as it's being conducted right now. Captain Francis Babu, many thanks for making time. Thank you very much. By the way, I told my people who interviewed me how they were recruited, and they told me they applied. Many thanks, Emmanuel Kisembo. Some of those concerns may be addressed by the fact that Captain asked a few questions, and thank you. Kassim Kamugisha, Deputy RCC in Nakawa, we are emboldened by your perspectives on the census, and we do hope for the next 6 days, many of us who have not been counted will be counted, but of course the process can improve, especially to ensure that accurate data is gotten in order for planning to be very specific going forward. That will do it for our Kickstarter and indeed MorningAtNTV. It's been a pleasure having your company on behalf of the team behind the scenes that ensures that 2.5 hours are as exhaustive as they've been. Many thanks. Have yourselves a lovely day. I'll see you tomorrow.